people would come up to me at events and be like, how do we go virtual? We've just been in our backyard for the last year. And I'm like, well, you're worried about a problem that doesn't even exist yet.
Welcome to the Level 10 podcast. I'm your host, Chris Gould, and this is the first episode in our Recession Proof series. Really super excited for our guest that we have on today, Tony Mont. You've probably seen him on Instagram. He's a real estate investor specializing in wholesaling. He's also an educator and is the owner of multiple seven-figure businesses. So excited to pick his brain today. Tony, thanks for jumping on the show with us.
Yeah, brother. Thanks for having me. I'm excited about this.
Yeah, for sure. Just to get us started, tell us what markets you're in and what does your team setup look like right now?
Yeah, so we've been wholesaling. We've been in the industry for about a year and a half. We started last year in May and, didn't really have a solid plan. We just knew somebody that was in wholesaling. Me and my two business partners come from a sales background. We've all owned businesses focused on sales. Thought it was a good industry to jump into. So we kind of just got started blindly, and we started in basically Florida, Ohio, North Carolina. We've since cut out Ohio, Toledo, Ohio. No offense to anybody from Toledo, but we were in Toledo for about a month, locking up deals, and I know I'll never in my life visit Toledo, Ohio after just running comps there and talking to buyers there and seeing how miserable everybody is. But anyway, we were doing quite a few deals in like Cincinnati, Cleveland. We did a few in Columbus, Dayton. But Ohio's been backed off a lot with the way the market's changing. So we're no longer in Ohio. We're in North Carolina, all over North Carolina, Florida, Georgia, and Tennessee. That's kind of our main markets and have been for a while.
So you're doing virtual like we are. I'm in Denver. Our market's Indy. How does that change the process for you versus doing it in your backyard? And then what are some of the challenges you have when you're getting deals kind of in all these different places?
Yeah, we kind of started off doing it virtual. So we never started off like, we never put bandit signs out. We never door knocked. We never did any of that. Like we started off with the systems and the processes kind of in place from our last businesses. And we're like, we could do this anywhere. So we had no fear in doing it virtual. The first, 10 deals we locked up were not in North Carolina, even though we were here. It's just coming up, not worrying about a problem until you have it kind of thing. It's like people would come up to me at events and be like, how do we go virtual? We've just been in our backyard for the last year. And I'm like, well, you're worried about a problem that doesn't even exist yet. Like, if you have to get pictures taken, you can't take them yourself, hire a photographer on Thumbtack. Like that's one step, you're sending everything DocuSign anyway, have the seller sign DocuSign. You're running comps the same way on PropStream and Zillow and all that. It's really not much different, other than, meeting somebody in person, which we've never really done, we've wholesaled 160 deals in a year and a half, and we've maybe met two of the sellers in person that were in Raleigh where our office is. So yeah, I always just give that advice. Like, if you have a problem, you're going to solve it once you have it, but don't worry about it now. You don't even have it yet. So
yeah, that's a good point. I think a lot of people make problems in their head and it becomes a barrier to taking action when it's like, once you get in there, you just figure it out. Like for us, people say, what's the difference between the virtual process and the regular? And I'm like, pretty much not much.
Nothing. Yeah, nothing really. There's buyers I've been talking to for a year and a half that I'm friends with over the phone. I know exactly what they're buying. I know about their families, everything, their background. And it's people, I've never even seen a picture of them. I don't even know what they look like, but I consider these buyers like friends of mine. Like I know everything about them. So yeah, especially this day and age. And I think COVID proved that, right? Like everything can be done virtually. So it was easy for us to start off that way.
Yeah. So 160 deals in 18 months is a lot. It's a heavy deal flow. So going from zero to moving that much, what do your marketing channels look like? What's your best ROI out of those?
Yeah, we do PPC and cold calling. That's all we've ever done. We most of our data is absentee owner data with high
Hmm.
equity. That's kind of been our bread and butter. So when the market was banging, PPC was like 10x every month for like three
Wow.
or 4 months. So we were cranking. The first month we started PPC, we were probably 4 or 5 months into wholesaling at that point when we kicked it in. I think we were starting off at like 5 grand a month
Hmm.
and spend. And that first month we locked up $125,000 assignment fee deal
On
that
one.
we on one. Yeah. So it was like, I mean, right when we started PPC, it was cranking. I mean, our bread and butter still, PPC is kind of shaky right now. We're getting a lot of realtors calling us, a lot of people that missed the boat, trying
Hmm.
to just reach at straws. We're getting a lot of wholesalers trying to JV deals that they can't get rid of now. So the PPC has definitely changed with the market.
Hmm.
But our bread and butter is absentee owner data, cold calling. Like that's because you can specifically target the exact properties you want, the exact markets you want, the areas are good. If you have really good buyers or, hedge funds give you, their zip codes where they're buying, all that kind of stuff, their criteria. You're talking to your private buyers, getting their criteria. You can really narrow that down with the
Hmm.
cold calling. So that's
Yeah.
always been kind of our bread and butter.
So talk to me about this 125K deals. Did the seller just say, this is what I want for it? Or how
Yeah,
did that work?
it was an interesting deal. Me and Eric were in my partner Eric Klein, which probably some of you guys know. We were in the office. It was just me and him. It was like late one day, and this PPC call comes in, and this is when we were running ads in Ohio. So this was later about a year ago, and a lady called she was in Cincinnati, and she said, "Hey, I don't have a house, but my brother does. He's out in Algona, Washington, and he needs to move here with me, can't take care of himself. Like, here's his name, here's his number. Can you give him a call and buy his house from him?" And we said, "Yes." So we call him, and we're running comps on this deal. The guy had like raccoons living in his house.
Wow.
It was complete mess, foundation issues, house was falling apart. It was like a 2-2 or something like that. It was like this small little cottage in this valley. And we're looking at comps, and he gave us his number he wanted, and we noticed like this valley was like beautiful, and every house that had been all the houses were exactly the same, and the ones that had been flipped were selling for about a $500,000. So
Mm.
he shot out a number of two something, and we ended up locking it up at like 165 or something like that. And this
Wow.
guy was super motivated. He said he had gambling debts, he had people after him, people were knocking on his door, he didn't feel safe. His door had been kicked in. He just was not a super healthy guy, I don't think mentally or physically. After we
Hmm.
got the photos of the property, we realized that. But once we got him under contract, he took off the next day. Like, he wasn't waiting. He's like, "He's under the mat. I'm moving to Ohio." So it put a little pressure on me because we were only a few months into wholesaling then. I'm like, dang, like this guy's moving. Like, I need to move this deal ASAP. Like, make sure this
Hmm.
guy gets paid, and we don't cancel, right? Um, so we get the pictures back like a couple days later. We hired a photographer to go out there. The pictures were absolutely horrible. Literally, like cat food stacked up in the living room. I mean, place was falling
Jeez.
apart. And I'm like, man, we'll see, man. I don't know what we can sell this for. And I'm like running the comps. I'm like, I'm gonna put this thing out at like 290 and see what happens. And we had just gotten investor lift. Robert Wensley actually gave me access to the cartel level buyer pool on investor lift for like 30 days back then, because he saw our numbers jumping up and jumping up. He's like, "Let me see what you guys can do with 3 million buyers." It's now over 4 million buyers in there, but back then it was about 3 million.
Hmm.
And it was just like, the stars aligned. We got this deal. It was a PPC deal. We locked it up low, sent it out at 290, and I had like 5 or 6 full price offers within like 24 hours.
Bro.
So the first
Wow.
guy that offered on it, he got it, and they closed, within 30 days, and it was $125,000 assignment fee. So
That's
that was the
wild.
first really big one we got. We've had 3 other six-figure deals, I think, but
Hmm.
that's still to this day the biggest one.
That's wild, man. And that was one of your first ones too.
Yeah, it was the first six-figure deal. We had so we were like 5 months into wholesaling at that time, and we already done, a couple six-figure months. So we've been doing some good deals. But that was by far the biggest one. I think before that, our biggest deal was like, 40 or 50 grand. So it was a
Wow.
huge jump, huge jump.
That's awesome, man. That's super
Yeah.
exciting for all those people out there that are trying to just make 5 and 10. It's like, if you
Dude.
get your mind right, you market to the right people, it's absolutely
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah, and getting really good at sales, getting good at the acquisition side of things, building rapport, not, giving an offer within the first 10 minutes.
Mhm.
Staying on the phone with these sellers, it's sales is all relationships. You got to get them to like you, it's
Mhm.
relationships on the acquisition side. You're in a 45-minute, hour-long relationship with the seller. You want them to feel comfortable, that you want them to trust you, like you, want to do business with you. And then on the disposition side of things, which I handle, it's these really long-term relationships with buyers. You want 'em, you want to send them good deals. You want to have good pictures. You want to know all the answers to the questions they're gonna ask. So
Mhm.
it's all relationship based. That's all sales is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good word. I had a question for you on sales strategy that you guys use. So, part of what we do is try to keep people in that emotional state as much as we can, get them away from the logic, talking like there's a comp here and all this stuff that's happening. But are you shifting into doing some of that like light educating or straight up educating sellers about the cooling market and how that affects the prices you can pay and all that?
Yeah, you have to, in this market for sure. Yeah, you have to educate them because, the data hasn't even caught up to what's going on in the market,
Hmm.
right? We're running comps from 90 days ago. It's even changed from 90 days ago. When
Hmm.
the market's going down, you really got to educate these people that your house is worth more today than it's going to be worth tomorrow, right?
Hmm.
So the faster we can get this under contract, this is going to be the best offer you're going to get. If you wait a month, it's going to be worth less. So we're going to be
Hmm.
offering you less if you call us back in 30 days.
Hmm.
So yeah, just educating them on that. Even we'll pull up if they're sitting at a computer, we'll pull up Zillow and show properties that have been sitting on the market for now we're seeing 80 days, 90 days, 100 days sometimes, and
Hmm.
showing all the price drops. Like, this, you think your house is worth 300 grand. Well, this one in better shape than yours around the corner has been reduced $30,000. It's sitting at, 260 now, and it's been on the market for 3 months. So your house isn't worth that. So
Hmm.
yeah, definitely educating them and showing them the data. We try to come up with real estate articles too that we talk about in our morning meeting as a team, just a little, snippet of information that we can relay to the seller, whether it's, 1.3 trillion in equity lost, in the last, few months, just so we have, it's top of mind that the market is changing, and we feel comfortable talking about those things with the seller.
Yeah, that's really good. I think a lot of people stay away from that, but in this time, like you're right, the data hasn't caught up. A lot of people don't quite realize how big of a turn it's taken. If they're just a seller, they're not looking at deals every day like we are. So that's a really good, it's a good piece of advice for people that are listening to this. And I mean, stepping back a little bit, there's a lot of people freaking out about this recession that we're in or we're going into, or however you want to define it. But you said in one of your posts on Instagram, this might be the golden age of wholesaling. Can you just tell me a little bit more about why you think that's the case?
Yeah, I mean, what I said on Instagram was, in a recession anyway, people still owe a bunch of money. Now they're, in credit card debt and student loans and everything else. And, a lot of times the only equity or the only money they're going to have is equity in their home. So a
Hmm.
lot of people are going to have to, sell their house in order to pull money out to survive this recession, right? And it's one of these things like that's what I said on Instagram. Another thought I have too, which I hear from a lot of my buyers and people my age, I'm almost 40. I was in my 20s during the last, housing crash or housing correction. And back then I didn't have any money to invest. And I feel like I missed the boat.
Hmm.
So like people my age now, they've been through the last downturn, and they want to capitalize on this. And so do hedge funds and people that are in real estate already. But even common people are like, oh man, I remember the last one. If I would have bought 3 houses back then, I'd be a millionaire today.
Mm-hmm.
So I think whenever this market does settle, anybody with any money, credit, access to money, I mean, they're going to buy up as much real estate as humanly possible. I know I am.
Yeah.
And I know the hedge funds are. I mean, these hedge funds are just foaming at the mouth for this market to come down, so they can buy up America basically.
Yeah.
So that's why I think we're running into that. Everybody else, you hear it all the time, like, man, we had this window of a few years, wholesaling was so easy, we were making all this money, but it's going to happen again. It's just we all knew this was coming. Everybody said we're going to have to pivot, prepare, adjust, and now that it's here, everybody's scared out of their minds. It's like, hey, we knew this was coming.
Mm-hmm.
All good. You just got to weather the storm. One thing we're doing is growing. We're tripling our team. We're going to lock up way more deals since our assignment fees are lower. Our assignment fees basically got cut in half. So now we're going to triple our leads, triple our deals, and triple the deals that we're assigning, and still make money through this. You can definitely make money through a downturn, a recession, everything. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. What are you doing differently now? Maybe you can start by talking about those offer calculations. Like, I'm assuming they've come down for you guys. They have for us.
Yeah, if we're looking at comps from, like I said, 90 days ago, whatever it is, we're adjusting 10, 15% off the ARV, maybe even a little bit more if we know it's a big rehab, it's going to take a long time. So by the time this thing sells, if it's a flip, so our offers are way lower to our seller. And, like I said, educating them, letting them know, because I tell you, who is educated is the buyers. They're going to
Mm,
tell you exactly what's going on with the market, and they're beating us up on the dispo side of things. So getting your disposition strategies really, really tuned in is going to be important. Keeping those, I call my buyers every week, my big buyers, and just kind of stay in tune with what they're seeing, what they're looking for, what they're still buying, how their criteria has changed. So
mm, mm,
getting a hold of your buyers, doing a little reverse engineering in the wholesaling space, knowing what people are adjusting for on the buy side, so you can adjust it on the seller side, and just casting a really wide net when it comes to dispositions. Making
mhm,
sure you're posting everything on the Facebook groups, you're calling your VIPs, you're getting a hold of realtors, you're sending out on your buyers list. We use Investor Lift, we send all the deals out on there. You're cold calling all your cash buyers off a prop stream in the area, creating relationships with them, adding them to
mm,
your buyers list. We utilize the MLS. We put a lot of our deals on the flat fee MLS. So now we're, gaining even more relationships with agents who have, if you can get a hold of 10 agents that all have 3 cash buyers and investors they work with, you've just tripled your pool there too. So
mm, mm,
it's all about relationships in this game and just casting the widest net possible, because your 3 buyers you used to sell all your deals to the last couple of years, if they pause or their criteria shifts and you got all these deals coming in, you got to find new buyers. There's a buyer for every deal. You just got to do the work and find them.
mm. Yeah, you talked about listing some of them on the MLS. I don't know, does that tie into novations, or can you talk about that?
No, it's different than novations. Everybody asks me that because we put a lot of deals on the MLS and we're still looking for cash buyers. It's still an as-is deal. It's still an assignment contract, all that. It's just another way to market to cash buyers. Like
Mhm,
it's the best marketing for cash buyers. Everybody looks at the MLS. Everybody looks
mhm,
at Zillow. So
mhm,
you can put properties on the flat fee MLS for about 150 bucks. And now you have, basically, it's kind of like PPC on the acquisition side. Now you have, excuse me, now you have a bunch of inbound calls from investors that see the deal, realtors that see the deal, all this kind of stuff. So it changed the game for us in dispositions. Like, we're
mm,
still looking for a cash buyer. It's still an assignment contract, but now we have all these inbound calls. We'll pay 2.5% to an agent that brings us a cash buyer, which is done on a separate commission agreement that we send into the title company, and that comes out of the HUD, so everybody's paid.
mhm,
We try to have them put their fee on top of it, and the pitch on that is, hey, we will pay the 2.5% if this is the best and highest offer. and it still makes sense for us. But you're going to get pushed out of a lot of deals if I'm constantly having to pay your commission. So
Hmm.
if you're bringing an investor to this deal, because we have cash investors that aren't using an agent that we don't have to pay a commission to. So if you're
Right.
bringing an investor, put your fee on top of it so you can get more deals and your investors can get more deals. You're going to win more deals that way.
Mm.
But it's separate from novations. It's just, if you look at it, it's just a marketing strategy to find more cash buyers. That's all.
Mm. So two things you mentioned there that I want to ask you about. One was you mentioned something about a separate agreement to pay the realtor that's not on the HUD or something like that. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, so when we're doing assignment contracts, there's no commissions, anything like that. So we've just come up with a very simple commission agreement with the agent if we do have to pay a commission on a deal. If it, sometimes we'll get over asking on the MLS, and we're happy to pay the commission then, obviously.
Hmm.
But it's just a commission agreement that you have with, our acquisition company is TLC Home Buyers. So when TLC Home Buyers and this buyer closes on this property, the agent is going to get a commission of 2.5%.
Got it.
So they sign it, we sign it, that goes to the title company with our assignment contract. So they get paid out of the HUD at closing. So they're not
Okay.
they're not worried about, is TLC actually going to send me a check?
Oh, okay.
They're getting paid out of the HUD. So we get all that signed ahead of time, makes everybody kind of feel at ease if we are paying a commission.
Yeah. And then do you have something in your contract that says we can market this in any way possible, or how does that work?
Yeah. There's a pre-marketing clause in our purchase agreement with the seller that states just that, Chris, where it's, we can pre-market your property on all these platforms, including the MLS. And we get almost zero pushback from
Really?
sellers. Even when they see, and that's the number one thing people ask me about this, like, well, doesn't the seller freak out when they see their house on Zillow? And it's like, no, because we've gone over that with
Hmm.
and we tell them it's a pre-marketing agreement. Like, we're going to pre-market your property on the MLS. We're going to find contractors over there. We're going to find potential renters if this is a buy and hold. We're going to find financial partners on there that might want to flip the property with us. Come up with whatever pitch you want.
Hmm.
But as long as you're upfront about it and you let them know that's going to happen, you get very little pushback.
Mm.
One thing I'll say about it though is a lot of these states are getting kind of strict with marketing properties that you don't own on the MLS and you're not an agent. So a lot of them require an attorney in fact document signed.
Got it.
So on every single deal we lock up in acquisitions, we're getting an attorney in fact document signed along with our purchase agreement. Much
Wow.
easier to have them sign that, and it's at the very end of the contract, and it just goes, and then we just refer back to that pre-marketing clause that they initialed, and we say this is a document that you'll need to sign so we can have the rights to pre-market your property. All right, no problem. There you go. We get almost no pushback on that. But it
Wow.
comes with building rapport with the seller, right? Like
Right.
if they like you, trust you, and want to do business with you, they're going to be happy to sign that because we agree to a price on their house. They don't care how they get that money as long as they get it, and that's the best way for us to get them paid.
Yeah. So this is where you talked about this at the very top of don't create problems for yourself that aren't problems yet. I think a lot of us don't take action on these because, well, what are they going to say? You get all worried about it. But also it sounds like you've created a solution for them already. They want something easy. They want to get paid fast. This is part of us doing everything in our power to make that happen for you, right? And that's probably part of the way you pitch it, I would think, right?
Yeah, it's not even a question. It's just part of our process. So if you just are confident and this is part of our process, then there's no question. Like, the only apprehension that the seller is going to have is because you have it. Like, if
Mm.
you don't have the apprehension, if you're not worried about it, then they're not going to be worried about it. So just being confident in this is the part of our process. This is the step we take. This is part of buying your property. It really eases their minds.
That's huge, man. That's a huge tip. If you're listening to this, take note of that. Yeah, that's big. Um, so you're see, I mean, I'm sure people are hitting you up on Instagram constantly, wanting advice from you and stuff. What do you think is the differentiator right now for the folks that are continuing to be successful versus those that are kind of struggling or going out of business at this point?
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's adjusting. Like, I own a bicycle business out in San Diego I've had for 15 years, right? And a few years ago, it was like 5 years ago, whatever, when those Bird scooters and Lime scooters and all those started popping up on the streets, and our business got cut in half back then.
Mm,
Like, we went from selling, 3,500 bicycles a year down at the beach to about half of that volume, right? And same with our rental fleet. We were renting 100 bikes a day in the summertime down to 10 bikes a day, because why would somebody come into a bike shop, rent a bike, give their credit card information, all that stuff,
mm,
when they could just walk on the corner, scan their phone, and take off on a scooter?
right.
So a lot of the bike shops kind of panicked, and a lot of them went out of business because they didn't adjust. And one thing we did was, if you can't beat them, join them. We got a hold of Bird scooters, and we're like, hey, who's fixing your scooters? Oh, we didn't even think of that yet. All right, well, let us fix your flat tires for you. we
Mm,
fixed we fixed Bird's flat tires for the first 45 days they were in San Diego, and
mm.
they cut us a check for like 70 grand for fixing flat tires. So
Wow.
that's how you adjust to things. That's how you adjust to markets. Like, what are buyers still buying? Are
Right.
you in a position to buy and hold now that the market shifted, right? Like, do you have extra cash laying around? Do you have private money guys? Do you have a hard money guy? Is there any way for you to buy some of your deals where
Hmm.
it makes sense, where your payments $1,000 and they rent for 1,700? Like, are you
Hmm.
locking them up low enough to do that? So
Hmm.
just adjusting in that way, and like I said before, talking to your buyers and your investors and seeing exactly what they want, what their volume is. And our attitude is just tripling down on everything, because we're
Mm,
still moving deals, but our assignment fees went from over 30 grand to, under 20 grand now. So,
hmm.
in order to get back to half a million in assignment fees a month, we're just tripling our volume on everything. And there's, everybody's like, oh, nobody's buying anymore. The hedge funds stopped buying all this stuff, but it's not like all these investors and flippers, it's not like all these guys are going out of business. They still got to put, food on the table. They still have crews to pay. It's not like they're just like, oh, the market's changed, I'm out of business, I'm going to go cut hair now. It's
Hmm.
That's just not the case. They're still buying. You just got to get really good at acquisitions, get really good at locking up deals low,
Mm.
and just increasing that volume, and still moving deals.
Yeah, that's great advice right there. Um, we talked about novations a little bit earlier, but can you just walk us through that process that you guys go through there?
Yeah, Novation. I have a love and hate relationship with Novations, to be honest.
Hmm.
Like, right now, I'm like F Novations. I'm never doing another one, just because
Interesting.
these deals. I mean, no, Novations, wholesaling, like everything was really easy when the market was going up, right? Like, even a buyer could buy a property at 90% ARV, sit on it for 3 months, sell it, and make a profit. Like,
Hmm.
when the market's shooting up like it was, like out of control, and properties are selling for 50,000 over asking, it makes people get lazy, right? You just don't hone in your skills when it's that easy. And Novations was really easy back then. Like, you could lock up a property at, I mean, almost at ARV, throw it on the MLS, and make money on it. But with the shift in the market, I mean, Novations are just as hard, if not harder, than wholesale deals, in
Hmm.
my opinion. So we kind of, when the market shifted, we took like half of our wholesale deals that we had locked up too high because the interest rates changed, after we had them locked up under contract. And we turned, half of those into novations, because now we could at least make a little bit on the open market. But what these gurus and people that do novations and all this stuff don't tell you is it's a process, and it's not
Hmm.
as easy as they make it sound. You
Hmm.
really have to stick to your criteria. Like,
Hmm.
like right now, we are super strict with novation criteria, where it's got to be a move-in ready home. It can't need a ton of repair. Vacant, is way easier than tenant or owner occupied.
Hmm.
And there's got to be at least a $40,000 spread on it. because the
Mm,
market's changing so much. You don't want these $20,000 spreads on these novations, and then interest rates go up again in a week, and now your offers are really low and you have no room to work. So
mm,
we're only locking deals up with $40,000 spreads that are move-in ready and hopefully vacant. We'll take them if they're owner occupied, but vacant is much better.
mm-hmm,
Um, and you can always flat fee list it, not get a seller's agent, just use a buyer's agent. You got to have really good relationships with title companies. Or if you have a relationship with David Olds and his company, he'll do these novations for you, he'll do the TC work for you. But you really need a lot of knowledge on how to get these deals closed, because not every title company, 99% of the title companies don't know how to close them. So you got to
mm-hmm,
have really good relationships with title companies that can do it. um, and uh, and yeah, in hiring, if it is owner occupied or tenant occupied, having really good relationships with a broker and an agent that can get a novation deal done. So
mm-hmm,
what I've done in the last 10 novation deals is just really hone in my relationships with agents that can get these deals done, and they
mm-hmm,
kind of help us through the process as well. But they are not easy. I mean, we will make over we'll make close to 150,000 on novation deals this year. But it's a hard hundred. It's a lot harder 150 grand than that wholesale deal I did for 125 grand. I'll tell you that. I
right.
would much rather wholesale every deal, but
Mm-hmm,
whatever makes sense. If novation makes sense, we're gonna still lock it up. If owner finance makes sense, we're gonna lock it up. It's just being flexible with what you're offering.
mm-hmm. So part of that really strict criteria for you guys is keeping your promise to the seller about this is going to be quick and easy versus, because if it's sitting on the market for 60 days, you're not fulfilling your duty to them essentially.
That's another thing, Chris, I didn't even mention, but we're getting 90 business day closes on these novations now. We started at 60 days and now we're at 90 business days because, as we know and we've talked about, things are sitting on the market and getting reduced every week for that
Mm-hmm,
long. The
mm-hmm,
average to close used to be, 47 days. Now it's like 70 days. So you got to have a lot of time on these as well.
mm-hmm. You mentioned the flat fee service. Which one do you guys prefer to use?
We use broker lists.
Okay, same with us.
So yeah, so brokerlist.com, super easy.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah, I have somebody in the office that half her job is listing our properties on the flat fee MLS. She spends half her day doing that,
wow.
because we just lock up so many deals. We have 30 deals in our dispo bucket right now that we're actively marketing for buyers. There's probably 5 of them that have contracts out on them, but haven't gotten signed yet
Mm-hmm,
today. But yeah, we have a lot of deals, so it's a
wow.
lot of work listing all those properties.
Yeah, so I didn't get around to asking about how many people are on your team. I mean, that's a lot of properties to be working.
We've done all of our numbers pretty much with 2 closers and 1 dispo person and 1 TC, and then us
Wow.
3 partners. So we've done all these numbers. We've done well over $3 million in assignment fees since we started. All this has been done with me, Eric, and Shyla, us 3 partners, and a very small team of 1 TC, 1 dispo, and 2 closers.
Mm,
So that's all we've ever really had. We just hired 2 more closers and we just hired another dispo person, and we're in the process of hiring another TC.
mhm,
So we're going to get all these people trained in the next couple months, and then again we're going to hire 2 more closers, 1 more dispo, and 1 more TC maybe if we need it. But we're just going to continue growing. We're moving out of a 2,000 square foot office into a 6,000 square foot office at the end of the year. And I mean, we just think sky is the limit with wholesaling still. We're still in it to win it.
that's huge.
Yeah.
And so your two business partners, you guys are all involved in the business still, talking to people on the phone. It's not like you've just delegated everything away.
Not yet. I mean, that's obviously the goal. I didn't start a business to just give myself a high paying job. Like
Mhm,
I don't, I'm still sitting at a computer making calls. I mean, you'll see on Instagram, I'm making calls to buyers all day. I'm doing property managing. I'm managing our flips and our rehabs. I mean, we all 3 of us wear every hat in the book.
mhm,
But that's what happens when you have a startup company and you're growing
mhm,
a business. Like we want to master everything so we can hire for it. and hire people that are maybe smarter than us at certain aspects of this business. But we got to understand it first. And we're kind of still in that stage of understanding everything, hiring people, training them, we still need to hire management and kind of structure our business because we've just been kind of gunslinging the first year and a half. But I think with the new office, having more space, more opportunity, I think we're going to really, in the next couple years, really structure this wholesale business to be, one of the biggest in the country, we hope.
Yeah. I think a lot of folks, they get out of the day to day too early,
Hmm.
and I think that's one thing we're looking at right now is like, I'm probably the person that could do the most, but everyone else is doing all of the work. And it's like I'm this high paid employee that isn't doing stuff for the business. So we're just reconsidering that right now.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's, my last business, I was basically the only employee for the first 4 years, and I just, first of all, I didn't think I was in a position to start hiring people. I was reinvesting into the business and doing all that. So it took me 4 or 5 years to where I could like step away from that business and really like work, on it and grow it that way. But it took a while,
mhm.
and yeah, people, and I think that's the problem with Instagram too, man. People see these people, these gurus and stuff out there, telling you the proper way to structure a business and all that. But yeah, it takes a lot of grunt work in the beginning and a lot of learning before you get to that point where you can delegate everything for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Instagram's a funny place because I've obviously interviewed a couple of people now, and, I see guys on there that have, 50, 60,000 followers. And then I interview them and I find out that they're like not really doing any deals. They're good at filming themselves. Right. And
Well,
then,
everything's fake, Chris. Like those people with 50,000 followers have fake followers. That's it.
mhm,
Like that's it. That me and Eric, Shiloh's not really on social media, but me and Eric made it a point. Like we're never going to get fake followers. We're just going to grow organically. But yeah, there's so much fluff out there. There's
mhm,
so many people with fake followers. And when we started going to, wholesaling events, we started noticing we'd look at these people's numbers, do office visits, all that, and we're like, we were only 4 months into the business. We were already doing double what all these gurus were doing. So it's like, well, we're doing something right.
yeah.
And I think that's the one thing. I opened Instagram this morning, man, and there was a particular person on there, and I'm just like, I kind of hate social media, which is why I hire somebody to help me with
Mhm,
it.
mhm,
But I had like 400 followers before I started this business. Like I wasn't on a whole lot.
mhm,
But I pull up Instagram this morning to post my reel that was done for me, and the first two people I saw, their reels were like, I'm doing $1 million a month. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Look at my cars. Look at that. And I'm just like, Are you really giving any value? Like, who
mhm,
cares?
mhm.
Cares? Like, yeah, I mean, we could go on there and just show our bank account every day. I mean, is that going to motivate anybody? Is everybody going to think you're a douchebag? Like, nobody cares. Like, nobody cares about your cars. Like, I
Mhm.
really try on there to, every other day I'll do like something personal about mindset or my past or, how I deal with stress or my routine. And then the next day I try to give value in real estate and wholesaling and business. It's like just giving a mix of everything. And I mean, I will never be on there I'll talk about like our assignment fees and stuff like that, but I'm never going to be on there flaunting how much money I make. I think it's just it's cringeworthy to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes the loudest people on there are actually doing the least, it's
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy.
Hmm.
Um, so let's just talk about like the long-term goals of things for you. I know you said on IG, you just want to own a shit ton of properties and get that mailbox money. So, with that being the case, when those come in, do you pay yourself an assignment fee to TLC? And then how do you do your compensation to your team if you're going to keep it?
Yeah, so we just kind of have a flat fee that we pay and a commission to our closer that locks up the deal. We don't necessarily pay an assignment fee. If we do, it's very small. That's a Shiloh question.
Mhm.
But it just kind of depends on our tax situation at the time. If we're gonna pay cash for the property or do a loan. use a lender. But we're just analyzing every single deal. Like if a deal, every deal that comes in, if it's something if it's a 1% rule or it's a good short-term rental in the mountains or by the beach, we're definitely looking at all those deals. Nothing, if it's an Airbnb property, yeah, we'll entertain a $500,000 property if it makes sense. But most of our like long-term rentals, we're buying stuff that's under 250 grand, so we can really stick with that 1% rule. Is the rent 1% of the total investment in the property. We're not really doing any major rehabs on stuff. We just kind of want lipstick rehabs that are in good rental areas in markets that are eventually going to go up in price. So if the numbers make sense, we want to cash flow, over 500 bucks a month if we're taking out a loan on it, and not have, the major mechanicals we want in good shape, right?
Yeah, 500 bucks a month. Being only in Indianapolis right now, and I mean, I've been doing this for longer than you guys have.
Mhm.
But our rentals were, if you're making like 200 or 300 a month, you're like really excited there, and it just makes me think we got to go elsewhere because it's just, yeah, the properties are cheap to get into, but you can't cash flow that much. It's just really for tax write-off purposes more than anything. It's not like you can get 20 of those and then go move to Hawaii. You got to get
Yeah,
100 of those to move to Hawaii.
that's kind of the thing. Yeah, you got to get a lot of them. I mean, even at 500 bucks a month, with three business partners and all that, it's like, how many properties do you really need to make a difference,
Hmm. Hmm.
so yeah, it's, hopefully you're buying low enough with a lot of equity in it. That's a big thing. Like I'll give you an example of a property we locked up outside of Marietta, Georgia. It was a townhouse. ARV was like 220 on it, and we actually locked this deal up for $50,000. The guy had had it for say 15 years. He paid 85 grand for it, and he
Mm.
sold it to us for 50
Mm.
because he had a meth head in there as his last tenant, and they
Mm.
left the place covered in graffiti, swastikas, holes in the wall everywhere,
Mm.
total meth house. They pulled all the electrical out of all the outlets out, all the lights out, all this. And the guy was completely overwhelmed when he saw the property. So he was just like, give me 50 grand, you guys can have it. But in reality, I'm looking at the pictures. I'm like, this isn't that bad. Do some drywall work, replace the flooring. I mean, whatever. It's a 2-2 townhouse. So we only put 35, 37 grand into this property. So now we're all in for 90 grand. It rents for 17, 1800 bucks a month. I mean, that's a great return. You got plenty of equity in it, at least 100 grand of equity in it. So
Mm.
those are like the good deals that we're looking for, not
Yeah.
something like that. You can pay cash for it and really get some good cash flow and return on your investment. So
Yeah.
that's a, a special one, but that's the beautiful thing about wholesaling, right? If you have this conveyor belt of deals coming in, just cherry pick the really good ones.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, I think a lot of people get stuck on, I just got to wholesale everything. And, you know, that's the shift we're making right now. We just took down 10, and I'm like you, man. I want to just aggressively build that rental portfolio. And I'm thinking of it right now, like I want to sprint for like 3 to 5 years and
Yeah.
get 100, 200 properties and then just chill and go do something helping people or something like that next. So,
Yeah, I'm good for like my last business. I mean, I was grinding every day, 7 days a week for 7 years, right? And then I got that business tuned in to where, it's paying me, 20, 30 grand a month, right? And I don't have to be there. So it's like that's the kind of business I want to set up where
mhm,
I'll grind it out for 5, 7, 10 years, whatever it is. And then once it's kind of set up and I don't have to be there anymore, I'm actually a nuisance when I'm at my bike shop now. Everybody's like, "What are
mhm,
you doing here? You're just
yeah,
getting in the way." Like that's the goal here. So
mhm,
having the wholesale operation kind of running, still working on it, not in it, and then just buying rentals, man, just buying short term, long term, all that stuff. That's the key to wealth for me and the key to happiness, man. I got a million hobbies. I love off-roading. I'm a mountain biker. I like to hike. I like to travel. I like to go crazy places. So traveling for me is number one, and enjoying my life. But I understand it takes this grind for
Mm,
however many years it takes, and I'm okay with that. I'm super disciplined. So I know I can get it done. So that's kind of build mode right now.
that's huge, man. Well, dude, it's been awesome having you on. Love your perspective on everything here. I know you have some educational programs. Can you just tell us about those and where we can find you?
Yeah, just follow me on Instagram. It's Tony_Mont, Mont. I do a 3-week disposition course. It's 1 day a week for 3 weeks. It goes about 2.5 hours. I'm not doing one until after the new year. I think I did 4 of them this year. I usually have between 25 and 40 people on those calls. It's all over Zoom. You get the recordings after we're done. So that's something I love. I was kind of getting caught up in the day-to-day stuff, and went to a couple events and a mastermind, and I spoke in front of a group of people at a mastermind about dispositions. And then after that, everybody came up to me like, "Hey, can I pay you to jump on a phone call real quick
Mm,
next week? Can I pay you? Can I do this and that?" And I was like, "Man, why don't I get everybody on a Zoom
hmm
call together, and we'll learn together?" So
hmm
that's how I came up with this course. And I love doing it. It's great. And I also sell the recordings too. If you need something right away, you can hit me up on Instagram. I'm in the process of building out my website, but I do have the recordings from past trainings that you can buy as well, and then just have them forever. So when you're onboarding a dispo person, you can show them the videos. It's really good training to get them going.
Awesome. Yeah, guys, get on Instagram. Definitely give Tony a follow. And Tony, thanks for joining us today, man. It's been great.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Level 10 podcast. You can head over to level10official.com to learn more about our courses, coaching, and everything else that we offer. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, like, and share with your friends. Go out there and take it to the next level.